Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 2023 horror film Where the Devil Roams.
You took a little piece of all of us, made the world a little more empty.
Hey, well, I hope that's not true. I'm trying to at least provide a little bit of levity here. I hope it's not too terrible for everyone. Where the Devil Roams has a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 46% fresh rating from the audience. It stars Toby Poser as Maggie, Zelda Adams as Eve, and John Adams as Seven. Now, these three core members of this movie are all a family. They are a mother, a father, and a daughter in real life and in the movie. They write, direct, produce, and star in all of their movies, and I think John did the music for this one as well. They've done a lot of really popular horror films. I've never seen any of them. Mostly because I'm not a huge horror movie fan. Now, I tell everyone when I review a horror movie that it is just not my wheelhouse. It is not the kind of movie that I normally enjoy. I'm watching it now because I'm watching all the movies that have a 100% fresh rating from the critics, but this is definitely not in my wheelhouse. That being said, the visuals in this movie are stunning. The cinematography is fantastic. The movie just looks really, really good, which is amazing considering it's only like a group of three core members of this team that does all these movies. They did an absolutely fantastic job here visually. This movie reminds me of a 1970s movie I saw that was directed and written by John Waters called Multiple Maniacs, which is also about a group of like carnival folk who go around murdering people. And I would assume that the Adams/Poser took a lot of inspiration from Multiple Maniacs for this movie because it really is similar, different but similar type of thing. But I would assume that they drew some sort of inspiration here. So I will say right off the bat, I'm not a fan of this movie. I thought Multiple Maniacs, which is the movie I'm comparing to this one, was probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, or one of the worst movies I've ever seen, because it's just not my kind of movie. And I wasn't a big fan of this movie either. It really does nothing for me, if I'm perfectly honest, besides the cinematography, besides the camera work, besides the visuals. This movie it's not something I would ever enjoy watching, and I will likely never watch it again. So what this movie is about is we have Seven, who is the father. He is a war veteran, and he seems to have some PTSD from the war. He's constantly remembering people that he saw murdered during the war and how those murders deeply affected him emotionally and mentally. And it's very deep. He is very traumatized by these murders that he saw. Or, I mean, not murders, I guess, but casualties of war that he saw. His wife is someone who loves him very much. They've been together for a long time. She was also a nurse during the war. He was a doctor during the war. Now, she would claim that he was a very gifted doctor, one of the best doctors around. He says he was only like a substandard doctor, that he wasn't that great, but that she was a fantastic nurse. Now, she loves her husband so much that whenever anyone inconveniences him, even in the slightest, she murders them. She murders them very brutally, and she really has no remorse for anyone that she kills ever. Now, the daughter Eve is a bit of an odd one. She is in her like 20s, or I would say early 20s to mid 20s. She can't talk, but she can sing, which becomes important later on in the movie, but there seems like there's just a really easy fix for what's going on later in the movie, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just not thinking this through fully. So they work in a carnival together with a lot of other people. They do some sort of act. I'm really not even sure what act they do. There's another guy in the carnival who does an act where he cuts his fingers off, and it's supposed to be just magic, but he's actually doing it. He's actually cutting his fingers off during this magic act. And we later on find out, because he shows Eve how he does it, where he has this heart that's sitting in a box, and he has to repeat a psalm. And when he repeats this psalm about the devil roaming or whatever, and he uses this needle that's in the heart and sews his fingers back together, that he's able to have his hand fully come back with like no repercussions. So there's like no rot, there's no anything. It's just a regular hand as long as he does everything in that particular order, like perfectly. So as the core group of 3 family members are like traveling here to there, doing their carnival thing, they run into people randomly. They run into people, and they do something that inconveniences the family, and Maggie ends up killing them, and she beats him over the head with a frying pan or something, or like sticks like this fireplace like thing through his neck, and they're pretty brutal like deaths, but a lot of them are like for no real reason. It's just she's just like a crazy person who like kills people because she doesn't like how they treat her husband. Now later, they basically do this without any repercussions. Now there's gonna be spoilers here, so so far nothing I've said has really given anything away in the movie, but this is going to be a huge spoiler coming up here, so if you plan on watching the movie, you probably shouldn't continue until you've watched it. But they get to a specific house and they murder everyone in the house, and then Maggie starts trying on people's clothes, and she starts suggesting that she's going to go try to grab clothes for other people because there might be perfect sizes for everyone in this house. And while 7 is up in one of the rooms doing something, this girl just comes from behind like a door and just like murders him and just starts chopping him up with an axe. And then Maggie runs into the room, and then this girl starts chopping up Maggie with an axe, and then Maggie ends up grabbing like this shard of glass that broke during the struggle, and she stabs the girl in the neck and kills the girl. So the only one who's still alive is Eve. Now Eve, she gets this idea that she's going to steal the heart from the other guy, the other carnival guy, and she's going to like reanimate her mother and father so that they come back to life and so that their parts are where they should be. The only problem is she can't talk, so she can't recite this psalm that's supposed to be recited while you're doing the stitching work. Why couldn't she sing the psalm? I have no idea. Like, why can't she just like sing the words? Because she sings in the movie. Why can't she just sing the lyrics? Like, instead of talking, just sing? I don't know. But she ends up like sewing these guys back together, her mother and her father, with like the needle from the heart. Only since she doesn't repeat the psalm, the parts don't reanimate perfectly. They're just kind of sewn back on, and they start rotting away. So like the parents are back alive, but like all their body parts are rotting, which helps with the act because they end up doing an act where their limbs start falling off, and everyone thinks that it's like this great new act. Like, how can they get all their limbs to fall off? That other guy can only get his fingers to fall off. These people are having all their limbs fall off everywhere. Now eventually it just gets to a point where their bodies are so rotted that they beg, like Maggie begs her daughter basically, like, just let us die, just let us go. At the end of the movie is kind of confusing. I was almost led to believe that she actually does sing the psalm at the end of the movie, possibly saving everyone, or she kills herself. I'm not really sure, because when people die in this movie, when Maggie kills people in this movie, the daughter takes a picture of the dead body with the camera. And at the end of the movie, Eve is singing, but she also like has a camera and she like takes a picture of something. So is she like killing herself and taking a picture? Is she letting her family die and she's taking a picture of them? Is she saving everyone? Honestly, I was a bit confused by the end of the movie. I will say that the movie was terrible for me up until the middle. It's right about at an hour when Maggie and 7 die. And after that, the movie was better for me because I really wanted them to like pay for what they were doing. I wanted some sort of retribution here. I didn't want this to be like some sort of movie where at the end they all get away with it. And watching like the last hour of the movie where these 2 people are like slowly suffering and like slowly rotting away was actually somewhat satisfying to see that they were actually like not going to fully get away with what they were doing, and that it was doing it in a way that was kind of painful, even though that they were being successful because they had this great act now. It still was a bit satisfying that they were riding away and that they weren't going to get away with it. Now, the music in this movie is horrendous. I will say that right now. The music in this movie is really bad. It's mostly like rock, like heavy metal type music. Now, clearly, like what kind of music are you going to use for a horror movie where people are dying? It just still seemed like it was out of place to me. It just seemed really like too like in your face raw type of music. I can't really explain it very well, but the music was really out of place to me. The acting was okay, but not great. Like, I think Maggie was probably the best out of the three. I mean, Seven was okay too, but Maggie for me was probably the best of the three. It's just because she had the most to do. Like, she was the menacing character. She was the murderer. She was kind of the one that drove the action in the movie. She drove the tension. She drove the drama. Like, she was the head of the family, like the patriarch of the family. She was the one who had all the suspense, and she had all the emotion, and I thought she did a really good job with it. It's just like the plot of this movie was not for me, and the fact that they're like murdering people at random for no reason. There was like no payoff with any of these murders. That was happening for like, it just happened like out of nowhere, like just because, and it was just for really stupid reasons. Like I said, it's just because these three people are inconvenienced in some way, so they kill someone. The pacing was super slow. I thought it's just this is just not the kind of movie that I enjoy. It's not the genre that I enjoy. This movie was just everything that I don't like in movies, essentially, except for the cinematography, except for the camera work. There's really nothing there for me. I wasn't a fan at all. I'm going to give it the same score I gave Multiple Maniacs because they're so similar. I will say Multiple Maniacs was unintentionally funny because it was so bad. And the acting in Multiple Maniacs was probably worse, but that's because it was a much different time. It is a much different situation when it comes to independent films and how you can make an independent film and the resources you have available for independent films. So it's, for a lot of different reasons, it's impossible to compare these two movies, but they are very similar in subject matter and just it not being my kind of movie and not for me. So this gets a 4.5. Wish I could give it higher. This is one of the lowest. I think this is these two movies are the only 4.5s I've given for this whole Rotten Tomatoes list. So 4.5. I hope you join me next time when I review a movie called Mars Express. Thank you. Have a great day.